reality and confront the abyss of the unexplained. What do these shadowy figures want, if anything at all? Are they warnings, observers, or just the fabrications of minds playing tricks on themselves? The next time you feel a familiar shiver run down your spine and you're tempted to glance into that darkened corner of your room, hello and welcome to the Mystery Channel, where in each video we discuss strange and profound topics, revealing secrets that science is still unable to fully explain. Have you ever had the eerie sensation of being watched? Maybe it was late at night, the world around you was silent, and out of the corner of your eye, you caught a glimpse of something. A dark, fleeting shape darting across your peripheral vision. When you turned to look, nothing was there. Or was there? Tonight, we're diving into one of the most chilling and unexplainable phenomena ever reported, the so-called shadow people. For centuries, this phenomenon has been whispered about in hushed tones, shared in personal testimonies, and depicted in art and literature. Who or what are they? Are they mere figments of our imagination, tricks of light, or something far more sinister? The term shadow people refers to shadow-like humanoid figures that are often described as appearing at the edge of one's vision or directly in front of them. These figures are typically seen as pitch-black silhouettes, darker than the surrounding darkness, sometimes with discernible shapes like hats, cloaks, or glowing red eyes. Witnesses overwhelmingly agree on one thing: the presence of shadow people feels profoundly unsettling. Let's begin with some chilling encounters. A woman from Chicago named Maria told her story in 2019. She was lying in bed one night, her bedroom lit only by the glow of a street lamp outside. She couldn't sleep and had been staring at the ceiling for what felt like hours. Suddenly, she saw movement in her peripheral vision, a tall, dark figure standing in the corner of her room. Thinking it was a trick of shadow and light, she blinked and turned her head, but it didn't disappear. In fact, the figure seemed to stand there entirely unfazed by her attention. Maria said she felt an overwhelming sense of dread, as though the air had been sucked out of the room. When she finally managed to turn on her bedside lamp, the figure was gone. She's not alone. Around the world, countless similar stories abound, often shared in paranormal forums, podcasts, or late-night conversations. Shadow people are said to appear not just in bedrooms but in hallways, forests, workplaces, and even during camping trips. In some accounts, these figures simply stand still, watching. In others, they move quickly, darting from one spot to another like living shadows. And then there are the most terrifying reports: shadow people who press themselves onto the witness, pinning them in place, leaving them paralyzed with fear. What's so compelling and unnerving about shadow people is how consistent these stories are across cultures and centuries. In ancient folklore, shadow-like beings were often described as spirits or demons, entities that lived in the margins between light and dark. But what exactly are shadow people? Are they spirits, ghosts, interdimensional beings? Or could they be reflections of something deeply rooted in our own psychology? Let's explore some scientific theories. One possible explanation ties shadow people to sleep paralysis, a phenomenon where an individual temporarily experiences immobility while transitioning in or out of sleep. During these episodes, the brain can slip into a dreamlike state even while partially awake, and hallucinations are not uncommon. Neurologists suggest that shadowy figures seen during sleep paralysis could simply be projections of the brain as it tries to make sense of incomplete sensory information. Another theory comes from the realm of neuroscience, specifically the way our brains interpret visual information. When light and shadows flicker unpredictably, such as during twilight or in dimly lit areas, our brains can misinterpret visual input and create phantom images. One possible explanation ties shadow people to sleep paralysis, a phenomenon where an individual temporarily experiences immobility while transitioning in or out of sleep. During these episodes, the brain can slip into a dreamlike state even while partially awake, and hallucinations are not uncommon. Neurologists suggest that shadowy figures seen during sleep paralysis could simply be projections of the brain as it tries to make sense of incomplete sensory information. In short, the shadow person might be a hallucination created by a mind caught between dreaming and waking. But what about sightings that happen when people are fully awake? Another theory comes from the realm of neuroscience, specifically the way our brains interpret visual information. When light and shadows flicker unpredictably, such as during twilight or in dimly lit areas, our brains can misinterpret visual input and create phantom images. This is known as pareidolia, the tendency of our minds to find familiar shapes, like human figures, where none actually exist. And then there's another explanation: heightened states of fear. Under stress or during moments of extreme anxiety, the brain activates its fight or flight response, becoming hypervigilant. This state can cause us to interpret ambiguous visual stimuli, such as shadows, as threats. It's an evolutionary trait designed to protect us from predators lurking in the shadows. But when no actual physical threat exists, our minds may fabricate one. Of course, not everyone is convinced these explanations are sufficient. Many paranormal researchers argue that shadow people cannot simply be dismissed as hallucinations or tricks of light, pointing to compelling evidence from eyewitness accounts. One particularly famous story that bolsters this argument comes from a man named Jason in Texas. Jason worked as a night security guard, patrolling a massive warehouse alone. Over the years, he became accustomed to the long hours and eerie atmosphere. But one night, something changed. As Jason rounded a corner, his flashlight caught a shadow that was clearly not his own. He described it as a figure with distinct shoulders and a head, yet no discernible features, just pure black, as though it absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Jason froze, and then the figure moved, slipping down an adjacent hallway. He chased it, thinking it was an intruder, but found nothing. Later, footage from the warehouse's security cameras showed Jason running, but captured no shadow figure. There are even researchers who believe shadow people could be tied to otherworldly phenomena. Could they be interdimensional beings briefly slipping into our reality? Physicists who study the concept of parallel universes suggest that it's theoretically possible for dimensions to overlap. If that's the case, shadow people might represent glimpses of entities from another realm, one where their reality is as concrete as ours. And for those with more spiritual inclinations, shadow people are often described as malevolent spirits or energy beings. Some paranormal investigators claim these figures are drawn to negative energy and may even feed off human fear. Others speculate the entities may be something akin to guardians or watchers, observing but rarely interacting unless provoked. Still, for many, the most terrifying possibility is that shadow people represent something inherently unknown, a phenomenon that neither science nor spirituality can fully explain. And yet, even with all these theories, questions remain. Why do so many people report eerily similar experiences? The same tall, shadowy figure with a hat, or the same chilling sensation of being watched? Why do sightings often correlate with times of great emotional upheaval or change? And if they are merely tricks of the mind, why do so many witnesses swear by the reality of what they saw and felt? Perhaps the answer doesn't lie in one field, but instead bridges multiple disciplines: science, psychology, and the mysteries we may never fully understand. Shadow people, whether they are hallucinations, spirits, or interdimensional visitors, challenge the boundaries of what we consider real. They remind us of the thin veil between light and darkness, between the known and the unknown. In the end, shadow people provoke something primal within us, the part of the human condition that has always wrestled with the looming dread of what might be just out of sight. They compel us to question our perception of reality and confront the abyss of the unexplained. What do these shadowy figures want, if anything at all? Are they warnings, observers, or just the fabrications of minds playing tricks on themselves? The next time you feel a familiar shiver run down your spine, and you're tempted to glance into that darkened corner of your room. So if you enjoyed this video and are interested in mysterious phenomena and mysterious historical incidents, don't forget to like, share, subscribe for more incredible and unbelievable stories. And leave us a comment with your opinion on this topic. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.